Welcome to day 30 of the escape plan. Today we're going to be talking about follow-up, right? Follow-up is to preface, right? We obviously want to be aiming to close everyone on the first call, unless you have a two-call close system, which is a bit more advanced, and we don't need to get into it. But if you have a one-call close, this is what you need to be aiming for, right? Collecting cash on the first call, no follow-ups. Naturally, sometimes you will have to follow up with some leads. Some leads you won't be able to close for whatever reason, and it might not be the right time, whatever. And this is basically going over, okay, what do you do in that instance, right? I've showed you what to do to close people, but what do you do when you don't close them? Because that will happen, right? So today I'm going to be showing you how to follow up with leads that didn't close on the first call. And throughout all of this, the thing that we're going to be maintaining, which is crucial, is that we aren't going to sound desperate. We're going to maintain and keep the leverage, and we are going to increase our close rate by, implementing systems and by using psychology. So the first thing to discuss is the mindset and the principles, right? So there's 3 rules. Never ever take a call if all decision makers aren't present. Right? This is mostly for B2B when you're selling to businesses, because you're setting yourself up for the partner objection. So you either have it sooner in the sales process, you kind of diagnose that there are going to be decision makers and we need to get them all on the call. And if that doesn't happen, you ask a question quite simply on the sales call, right? You simply ask, like, okay, so when it comes to making a decision here in terms of getting to a desired goal, like, are we talking with the decision makers? Like, are we able to come to a decision today? Because I don't want to waste any of your time or my time, right? It's useless to speak to, for example, I don't know, a representative of a company, and rather than, like, I don't know, the chief marketing officer or the CEO, when you're talking about something that's going to have a massive impact on the business, right? It makes no sense. So we want to make sure to bring those people on the call, and we have the sales call with those people, right? That's the first thing. The second rule is some people, if you objection handle too hard, like, it's something to remember. When you're objection handling, you might get to a stage where you feel like you are pushing too hard. And if you push too hard and you can see that clearly, that they're not ready, and you're going to push them away, right? If you keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, you're going to push them away forever, right? So that is something to be extremely, extremely careful of. And that's also just from doing the reps, right? If you understand objection handling extremely well, this isn't something to really worry about, because you will be able to close people. But the thing is, especially when you're starting out and you're kind of coming to grips with everything, you might just be repeating yourself and pushing and pushing and pushing. And if that's the case and they're not, on board, you don't want to keep pushing, because then you're going to push them away forever. Okay, so third rule and final rule. It's understanding that follow-up is not begging, it's not desperate, right? It's strategic leadership, right? You're guiding them back to what they already want. You have the solution to their problem, right? Don't forget that. And that is why we follow up, because we need to ensure that they get the solution to their problem efficiently. So, what are the 3 types of follow-up leads? We have hot leads, warm leads, and cold leads. So a hot lead is basically they've seen the offer and they're at a point where maybe you didn't close them on the call because they're finding the funds to get it started, right? So what we want to do here is we want to check in with them daily, right? To basically nurture them correctly, to keep them in that buying mindset. We do that by sending them relevant testimonials that match their situation, reminding them constantly of the outcome that they want and how this is the vehicle that helps them get there. So for example, you could send a quick little text being like, hey John, you mentioned last time you were looking to find the funds to get the ball rolling. I just wanted to understand how the progress was going on there. Also, I thought of you when I saw XYZ testimonial, XYZ client interview, XYZ case study, where this person, you can put their name, was in a similar position to you or in the exact same position as you, and this is what happened with them once they went through our process. Something along those lines. So they watch the video, they watch it, and then they're able to actually picture themselves doing it a lot more, and it keeps them kind of focused on joining. Because yeah, if you don't nurture them correctly, they can go potentially to other companies, etc., and that's not what we want, because if we know we can help them best, we want them coming to us. So that's how you deal with hot leads, right? You nurture them correctly with content that is very much explaining the transformation and them seeing it firsthand through the testimonial, like through the perspective of a previous client. Then we have warm leads, right? So warm leads are people who are interested, extremely interested. They didn't buy and they've kind of cooled off, right? For some reason. Maybe initially they were going to find the funding and something happened, right? And things came up in their life, whatever. They didn't end up buying. So what we want to do here is we want to basically, we almost want to create a system, right? An email nurture sequence, we can call it, right? So it's like, I don't know, 12 emails that we've written. We can use ChatGPT or Claude AI to help us write them. But they obviously need to sound professional and human, right? And in these emails, we have testimonials, we have educational resources, we have wins from other clients. And this is really just it can also be text sequence as well, but an email sequence is very easily automated. So then you only make it once and then you can get these guys nurtured over and over and over again without having to really lift a finger. And all you have to do is respond when they respond to the emails. A kind of keynote with these email sequences, you keep the end open-ended so that they actually reply. Or you end it with a question, for example. That's basically what it means. And yeah, you add them to that sequence. I would call them once a week to check in with them, to try and get in contact with them, and focus on building the relationship, reopening the dialogue. This is super important. For example, what you can do on those calls, similar to the emails, is you call in, check in how they're doing, and then you can say, so remember when you said you wanted to quit your job and you were wanting to do that because you felt like you were a cog in the system and you wanted to instead travel the world, be able to have that independence. Well, here's someone who actually did that, right? And you share that video with them over the phone, similar to how you would in the email. And that is extremely powerful because it reopens the conversation, and then you can call them maybe a few days later, see how they got on with the video, and then book them in for a call, right? The purpose of us doing this is obviously to get them back onto a call and basically get them back in, right? That's what we're trying to do here. Then you have cold leads, right? So cold leads are basically leads who didn't close, and after a week, 2 weeks, no major movement, right? Add to basically, because they can also go from hot to warm to cold, right? They can initially go from, where like the sales call to being cold lead, depending on how it ended. But typically, if you're doing the sales process correctly, it will be hot, then warm, then cold. So for example, they didn't reply to any of the emails. Okay, then you add them to like a monthly follow-up, right? And in these follow-up emails, it's like soft touches. So you send them YouTube videos, you send them stories of clients, you invite them to webinars maybe of the business owner that you work for, right? And what I would be doing is every week, maybe Thursdays or Wednesdays, whatever, every week you review every single kind of cold lead that you have and you plan the next touch point, right? So you can even create like a sequence, right? Email sequence or text sequence for these guys to like send them these texts and send them these emails. And then, for example, you need to have it really structured and organized, where you are basically checking in with the people who have become cold every month, and you put like reminders in your calendar and all of this stuff to basically allow you to stay on top of the ball, right? Because it's important to remember, like, their pain, it doesn't just disappear, right? It doesn't. But it might change, like the priority of the pain might change, right? Something might happen and come up with their work or their family life or whatever it may be. And priorities change. But then when it goes back to being a priority, because we've been following up, we are then top of mind. And that is what it is super important to do. Follow up is key. You can make a lot of money doing follow up, right? Because you're basically making up for all the people you didn't close. And it will be nice because maybe you're having a month where you're not performing as well, but then you have also in that month a lot of follow ups close, right? And that's amazing to basically have. And then when it comes to follow ups, off that first call that you have, and you, let's say you don't close them and you book in a follow-up, book that within 24 to 48 hours. That's super important. Similar to what we spoke about when it comes to appointment setting is you lead and you give them options. So you don't say what time works best for you. You basically say, today's Thursday for me, so would Friday or Saturday work better for you? Okay, and would Friday morning or afternoon work better? Okay, you are the one providing them with the options and the solutions, not the other way around. And the final kind of few points that I want to emphasize right now is every single no that you get now can become a yes later, right? Especially if you follow up well, right? Like we've discussed. You want to create systems, you want to write email sequences, almost like you're a business owner, right? And text sequences, and basically a Google Doc with all of these different emails and text messages that you can have, and almost creating automations as well. That's super powerful because that saves you time, and time is a very powerful asset as a closer because you want to be spending your time making money and on sales calls. You don't want to be spending too much of your time on follow-up. So automating these things is super important. We help our clients with that, obviously, like automating that to basically ensure that they, spend most of their time closing, which is, the key thing. And don't take, this is another thing, like if they're not replying, don't take it personally, right? They are still in pain. They still have the problem that you solved. For example, if you work for a fitness coach and someone is overweight coming to you, like you're following up with them for their best interests, right? And if they are silent and they're not replying to you, don't take it personally, right? At all. It's the last thing you want to do. You're being respectful, right? Following up, you have to be respectful, and all you are doing is actually pursuing what they said they wanted, right? That's it. They said they wanted this. That is all you're doing. You're not like spamming them with crap that they don't want. You're not like junk mailing them, right? You are simply providing them with solutions that they said they wanted. Okay? So remember that. That's the mindset you need to have going into this, because some people don't make decisions on the first call. Some people are super stubborn. Some people have things come up in life, and that's just how the game goes. It's just life, right? If anyone says they have 100% close rate, it's complete bullshit, because it literally doesn't happen, because there's so many factors outside of a closer's control in terms of actually acquiring the sale, because it's a two-way street. Remember that. And final thing is to really get this flowing how we want it to. We have things called CRMs, and CRMs, I'll go into it in a little bit more detail later on in the next kind of few episodes. But CRMs are basically like softwares to organize everything. So for example, you have like one column for booked calls, one column for follow-up, long-term follow-up, and you can have, for example, follow-up hot lead, follow-up warm lead, follow-up cold lead. You can have no-show column, you can have a deposit collected column, a closed column, an unqualified column, whatever it is, right? But you need these organizational tools so that you can actually do your job as well as possible. again, I kind of mentioned this the other day, like the skill of sales is only a small percentage of it. There's so much that goes into this to really be amazing. Like getting to really, if you want to make 5K a month, like okay, you can do that with just a skill. But if you want to like really raise the level and raise the bar, you got to treat yourself like a business, right? And that is kind of what I'm educating you guys on and how to do that. And that's what I also teach my clients. So yeah, that's everything for today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.